biomass in world history. It was also the closest thing to genocide we can observe in the history of human relations with their large mammalian relatives. In less than a century, humans transformed the world's oceans from places that pulsed with living whales to nearly empty water. The fact that the large whale species survived at all is a miracle. Their 20th century history, a testament both to humans' collective power to destroy and to reverse course. I wrote this book because I think it essential that we understand this remarkable history. And looking at Greenpeace's pictures, I realized there was much more to it than the actions of a handful of environmentalists. I wondered, especially, who were these Russians on the other side of the ship's bow, looking down at the Greenpeace hippies, firing away at the sperm whale mothers and calves in spite of the protesters. Their role in this episode seemed to me nearly as significant as those of the activists. It demanded a better explanation than militarism, mechanism, and evil. But despite the fact that they killed more whales than did any other country after World War II, the Soviet Union's part in the story has remained entirely hidden. After the Greenpeace encounter, the Dalny Vostok made its way back to its home port of Vladivostok, ventured out a few more times, then called it quits. Silence ensued. Why? This book answers that and several related questions. Why did the Soviet Union pursue industrial whaling at such a gigantic scale, even as other countries dropped out of an increasingly unprofitable industry? Why did they kill so many whales above the international quotas they had accepted? Did anyone in the USSR care or try to stop this from happening? Were the Soviets at all moved by the Greenpeace protesters that day in 1975? What was it like for the world's whales to experience such an unremitting slaughter? Thanks to the opening of former Soviet archives and the dedication of whale scientists in piecing together the scale of the Soviet deception, we can now answer some of those questions. The answers help us understand the fate of the world's whales, of the Soviet Union, and of the central dramas of the 20th century. During the years of researching this book, I met former Soviet whalers on several occasions. Two encounters stick out in particular. First, on a midsummer's day in 2016, I joined a group of whalers from Kaliningrad on the Baltic Sea who gather every year at a small city park notable for a large statue of two fighting bulls. The bulls' testicles are particularly prominent, and they turned the whalers' conversation to the culinary qualities of whale testes, which were apparently considerable. Even as cloudbursts erupted, the old men basked in the warmth of jokes, and their memories of disasters narrowly averted, larger-than-life harpooners, and the camaraderie of shared hardship. These men had done well in the Soviet Union. They had survived perestroika and the chaos of the 1990s, if only just. As one whaler explained to me, he had earned good money at whaling, but post-Soviet inflation had destroyed every cent of it. If many now lived in crumbling apartments, they could at least enjoy their grandchildren making modestly successful futures, wealthier than even these ex-whalers had dreamed of becoming. They were gratified, too, by my interest and by the attention of a film crew making a documentary about Soviet whaling. This was the respect they felt they deserved. Why had they become whalers, I asked. The spirit of the sea had lured them, they responded. Some said they had just been born hunters. Read this book of whaling poetry, one advised me. There are more answers to your questions in one verse than in all our responses. As the evening inevitably turned to cognac at a nearby Ukrainian restaurant, toasts were offered to international friendship, and the surreal nature of the scene stole in through the beginnings of a headache in my mind. Here I was, chatting amicably with men who had played a central role in one of the greatest tragedies of the 20th century, whose only reckoning had been the fact that the world had forgotten about them. Others who cared deeply about whales had made darker accusations. As Bob Hunter had asked after his encounter with the Dalny Vostok, what indeed could a nation of armless Buddhas, whales, do against the equivalent of carnivorous Nazis equipped with seagoing tanks and Krupp cannons? Few today would be willing to go as far as Hunter. The whalers at the table with me had massacred